The Balanchetta, the other private way, has common ownership. The same Cedar owns both sides of that. So it's very likely that that'll get discontinued at some point because they, they're the ones that have interest in that layout.
I see. Okay.
And these guys don't. So that's another reason why there's no cul-de-sac there.
Okay.
I guess the only comment I have is, it appears, based on the comments on this, is that the outlet of the pipe that you're dumping into is full of silt, and considering that we're tying drainage into it, I would think that we want to at least have that cleaned out as part of.
Yeah, we had told George that we would do that. We agreed to that, absolutely.
That's my only.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Joseph.
As part of the final, and I would, for how much it's worth, I would put that as part of Mike's work that needs to be completed.
I think that was.
Yeah.
I thought that was in there already.
Well, it shows in the plan, you may have done it or not, but it didn't show in Mike's, in terms of him carrying any
No, it's
money
not
for
done.
it,
It's not
nor
done.
it,
No.
okay, yeah, nor is it shown on here.
I think the primary question is whether the board's comfortable with accepting a bond on an 81L, because that's kind of an unusual situation, but given the circumstances, it may work.
Yeah, what did you say, Larry, that the
Well, typically, 81Ls are for streets that had already been improved at, maybe
Right.
years ago, and now they're looking to be able to get buildable lots off of them. So in this case, they are building the road. They built it all but the top coat. So the bond would be for the top coat and these other miscellaneous items. So the issue would be whether or not the board would be comfortable with that. I would assume you might be able to go ahead and approve the 81L, subject to the bond, and I'll just
Yeah, I can make a motion for that.
hold on to the 81P if you vote on that later until the check clears.
Yeah, I can make a motion of that. How much is the bond, 12?
9,000.
12? 12?
No,
What's the difference between 9 and 12?
three?
Sounds 12.
I like 12 better.
Well, it's his checkbook, so.
12's a nice round number.
I like
How
the
much is he
number
gonna
2.
put on? Did you say 12?
Mike's was for 9.
Yeah,
Oh.
motion.
We just need to add on that the additional works to clean out the
Right.
pipe too. I mean, I don't think it's a huge
This is
enough
an
cost to
81L.
worry about it, but
Subject to them cleaning out the catch basin and the acceptance of a
yeah.
$9,000 bond.
do I hear a second?
I'll second Pat's.
Motion by Pat to approve the 81L, subject to the final work needing to be completed, the pavement and loam and seed, and also cleaning out the corrugated steel outfall pipe on the far side of Prairie Street, and to accept the $9,000 bond to complete that till that work is completed. Seconded by John. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 4.
Thank you.
All right. Now, you wanna-
Now, do they have an 81P?
they have the 81P, yep.
Check. Paperwork?
Master collision.
Can I get the Mylar?
Thank you. That one was tough.
Where the hell was the?
81P for lot 23, I had a check for $350.
So you're creating 2 lots.
Correct. 2 lots, 100 feet of frontage. Adequate area.
Motion.
Yeah, you only brought.
Motion to approve the 81P.
Rubber band.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Lena. Motion by Pat, approve the 81P, second by Lena. Any discussion from the board?
It's much easier if I can see it.
I'll,
All
Fewer
those,
questions.
all those in favor? You'll hold on to,
I'll
yeah,
hold on to
Larry
this,
will hold
sign it
on to
when
the
I-
81P until the check clears for the
Bond.
deposit on the 81L.
Thank you.
Unanimous of 4, Karen.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Have a nice night.
What are they gonna be doing with the, what's released? On the starting of it? Nothing?
yes,
Can we zip to the end of this?
I don't know, I haven't seen it.
He's so busy. See how he's building?
Site plan review, 288 West Street, Master Collision Center, Inc.
It's a really, just say continue it till.
While he's getting ready, I'll just go through staff comments. It's amended site plan approval to establish an auto body collision repair business, as well as used car sales on the subject property. It's 288 West Street, map 37, lot 9, it's in the CC zone. Section 2.3 of the zoning bylaw requires special permit for auto-related uses in the CC zone.
Thanks.
ZBA approved the special permit at their 1/10/19 meeting. The proposed use appears to generally meet applicable provisions of the zoning board, of the zoning bylaw, provided the maximum number of unregistered vehicles does not exceed 10. However, a number of deficiencies still remain on the site plan as submitted. I'll just go through them. There's no reference on the site plan to the ZBA special permit. The access easement to the rear of the property is not shown on the site plan. The former daycare center is not properly identified as proposed office for the business. There's no topography shown, no utilities shown, no landscaping plan for the designated landscaping area along West Street, and the parking chart does not reflect the proper usages. Therefore, I recommend the application be continued. That was from Larry. And we also have a copy of the ZBA decision. We have a letter from the town engineer. The revised plan addresses the concerns in his, Mike's February 14th letter. The plan now shows the proposed septic system, the access easement, and the proposed usages are shown accurately. So apparently from time of Larry's letter,
Yeah, earlier
some
today,
of the stuff has been addressed.
earlier today I was able to submit some new ones,
There's
so.
also a copy of Mike's original letter, which we don't need to go through. Highway Department, I have reviewed the above-mentioned site plan, find it to be satisfactory. Fire Department, the site plan is acceptable for fire department access. Water Company, no conflict or issues proposed to the existing water utility. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so, my name is Brian Hassett, civil engineer at Gary and Hellman, here representing Master Collision Center. As mentioned, there were a number of deficiencies, earlier, but we've addressed, I believe, all of them. We're showing the easement now. You can kind of see how it comes up through here and comes up through this way, for the access. We have changed the use, from a daycare to office space for the automotive sales and service. Let's see if there's anything else. And we've shown some new utilities, including a proposed septic system, along with the existing septic area out and back of the old daycare as well. So as mentioned, we've received a positive determination from the zoning board. That decision has been recorded. Worcester Registry of Deeds, book 60052, page 233. That's it. Any questions and comments from the board?
You added a topography and a landscaping plan?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, we added some topography onto the plan as well. And initially, we had only shown the 15-foot landscaping strip along the road, but I've since added a number of trees. There would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. There would be 5 new trees being installed. There needs to be 7 according to the zoning bylaw. I believe it's 1 tree per 27 feet of frontage. With that, I have 2 existing trees and then 5 new trees to be planted. There would also need to be 4 shrubs to be planted according to the zoning bylaw as well. So I've included 4 shrubs in the locations. I don't call out specifically what the species of tree or shrub needs to be, but I did specify that native trees and shrubs would need to be used.
Questions from the board? Mike, I'm just wondering, based on the trees going in and the shrubs and stuff, are there any site issues coming out of West Street, that location, you're aware of? I'm just afraid with the trees out at front and it being on a turn, that looking back up, there may be some site issues, I'm not sure.
Sorry. You go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing that, where it's shown the 15 feet back, it's actually like almost 20 feet back from the actual edge of pavement out there on the ground, but I did not go out there and measure and check site distance, anticipating shrubs and trees on the ground. This just came in today, so I certainly did not do that.
Right, I have a photo from Google Street View that might shed some light on this as well. Right here, you can see the sign right here, and it's really tough to see on the small one, but it's that small sign right there. So you can see the trees would be kind of a little bit behind this sign right here, further back, so they have all this space up here to come out and be able to see.
I think if
left
they're
and right.
behind the tree, you should be fine. You said there was 2 existing trees already?
Yeah, there's one right here, and then the other one is right here. The existing tree sits about right there on the
I
plan.
think the line of sight measurement is out in the right-of-way on that plan. It's 300 and some
Yep.
feet.
Right,
So that's,
You have to
measured
make-
technically, not based on, trying to see through the landscaping. So if it's that far from where you would measure it, you'd be out in front of the landscaping anyway.
Yeah, if you're getting out, to get out of there, you have to get out and around the landscaping island that's right in the middle of the entrance right now anyway. So that kind of pushes you out far, having to look.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion. Favorable.
Motion to, for a favorable determination,
Site plan review.
yes, site plan, or favorable, we got site plan approval.
Yep.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Lena. All those in favor of approving the amended site plan will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 4.
Hey, Mike.
Some more property goes on
Have a Mylar? No, bring it in sometime.
Yeah, sorry.
ZBA permit referral, 3 South Free Street.
I was trying to figure that out.
Stephen Lacoste. I'll read that. I'll read staff into the minutes. I have a letter from Larry. The applicant requests a special permit to convert the second story of the detached garage on the subject
Yeah,
property
it's
to
over.
office space and storage. The applicant received a variance from the ZBA in August of 2000, which is attached in our package, to construct a single-story underlined, addition to the then existing detached garage to be used for storage purposes. The appropriate request now should be a variance, not a special permit. There is no record of the ZBA decision having ever been recorded at the Registry of Deeds, and what the applicant actually built was a 2-story structure.
Oh, no.
Also, the current application is incomplete as it does not specify that the current use is a 2-family dwelling, and no engineering site plan has been submitted. Further, the proposed arrangement of rooms on the second floor, which includes 2 bathrooms, appears to be for a supplemental apartment.
God.
Gee, who would ever guess? The applicant has
God.
inquired of staff several months ago if a supplemental apartment would be allowed if the detached structure, and he was advised that a supplemental apartment would have to be within a single-family dwelling only, not in a detached garage, and not in the existing 2-family dwelling on the property. The applicant has inquired of staff several months ago if a supplemental apartment would be allowed if the detached structure, in the detached structure, and he was advised that a supplemental apartment would have to be within a single-family dwelling only, not in a detached garage, and not in the existing 2-family dwelling on the property. The application appears to be a clear attempt to subvert the zoning bylaw. Therefore, I recommend an unfavorable report be sent to the zoning board of appeals.
I remember this very distinctly. This goes, no, you know why? Florence Pine,
Yeah,
before she died, this was built. And let me tell you, it was probably about a foot off the property line. And it was mammoth, and it shouldn't have been 2 stories, to be
Right.
honest with you. And it
Right.
was, it was,
I remember
it
that.
was
remember
overbuilt.
that.
I'm gonna be frank with you. Now, I mean, obviously, it's no longer a residence, it's been converted to a business. However, I can't assume that it's for storage.
No.
I cannot assume it's for storage.
It is not.
To me, it was built as if to house people. I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely.
With that said, I'll certainly make an unfavorable. Listen, I can see, it says office with bathrooms, please, I'm not that foolish.
Motion been made to send an unfavorable recommendation to the zoning board of appeals. Seconded by John, motion by Pat. Any other discussion from the board?
Maybe a letter when you get a chance.
Hearing none. Larry, I guess I just have a question in terms of considering he never did what he was supposed to do to begin with. What does, the town has no ramifications there, no,
Well, not now.
not now because it's been too long.
Yeah.
Honest to God, it's about a foot off the property line, maybe 2.
Well, looking at the size of the structure and considering what I assume they put in for the application and then looking at that, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But seeing how we can't do anything, I guess, all those in favor of sending an unfavorable to the zoning board of appeals will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous at 4.
Thank you.
Yeah, the building official
Yeah, that was awful.
refused to follow up and
Yeah, that was
just let it
fresh.
go.
Yeah, that was fresh.
ZBA variance request, variance referral, 22 Congress Terrace, Mary Lee Seipel. The applicant requests a variance to divide the existing non-conforming lot. The subject property consists of a single-family dwelling on an 11,656 square foot non-conforming lot in the RB zone. RB requires 15,000 square feet.
Oh, my
As a corner lot, the property has 3 front yard setbacks and no side yard, 1 side yard setback. No rear yard setbacks are required. Specifically, the variance requests the already undersized lot to be divided into 2 new smaller lots.
Yeah.
Such an action would constitute rezoning the property to the RA zoning district. Further, there are no circumstances whatsoever relating to the soil conditions, shape, or topography of the property that warrant the requested relief. Therefore, I recommend an unfavorable be submitted to the zoning board of appeals.
And she lives
I
in
don't know where they
I'm not sure, and if this ever gets approved, it'll be, to me, it'll be
How
a
large is the
disgrace.
lot to begin with, Larry?
It's 11,
11,
11,000,
11,000.
656, so it's 3,400 square feet short of what it would need to be in the RB zone.
That's a
It
big
was, I'm
difference.
sure when it was built, because those lots were somewhat smaller, but it doesn't meet zoning now, and
There's only a
it
shed
really wouldn't even meet RA zoning if they subdivide it.
I'm just slightly confused for a second, because I'm assuming this is the existing house, which is 15,000. So I'm assuming that her lot was actually 26,000. That's why I'm a little confused why we say it's undersized to begin with. Because you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just want to be clear that I don't believe she had an undersized lot to begin with, because I think it's 26,000. I think what she's trying to do is create 115 and 111.
111.
But to
Yes.
sit here, to suggest that it was undersized to begin with, I don't want to go down that path and say it was, because I don't think it was. I think what she's looking for doesn't make any sense. But I don't want to say that it was an
Yeah, so-
undersized
so
lot to
yeah.
begin with. That's all. I just want,
Yeah.
for the record.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it unfavorable, because it's in the
26.
RB, and it doesn't make any sense. But I just want to be very clear that
Yeah, it looks like based
it was
on,
26,000.
let's see what the application
It's
says.
not, though.
Well,
It's for
let
the
me check,
grandchildren's
and
college
if it's different,
education.
I'll change
She lives
the,
in Northbridge.
I'll change the,
Second.
Yeah, to be removed. It looks like
Did you second
it looks like they're saying it's gonna be the existing lot is 26,600.
so
Yeah.
I'll change.
So it's an
the,
existing, the report should
What if
read
they
that it's
wanna
a,
That's all. I just
it's a
wanted to make
conforming
sure.
lot, that they wanna make 2.
Yes, thank you.
You
That's
wanna
all.
build 2
I don't
houses
want to go
there,
down the path that say that we misunderstood it.
So effectively, they wanna do
Don't trim
2
that.
lots. One would be
Conforming,
conforming, it appears,
and one would be
Yeah.
and
not.
one would be not.
Non-conforming.
I just, I don't want to send this letter because
Well,
it's
I'll change it.
incorrect, that's all.
Well, it's an existing non-conforming house anyways. It actually wouldn't be a conforming lot just because because of the frontages in this,
Right.
I don't believe. I believe this would still be non-conforming on this side.
They want
Oh,
to split it.
Because of the lot,
They wanna
well,
put-
because of the,
wonder what
because of
they
the
wanna put
frontage
there.
Oh,
requirements.
Okay,
I'll change the report either way.
that's fine. I just, like I said, I
Duplex.
didn't wanna go down the path that it was an undersized lot to begin
Yeah.
with, so.
All right,
I still make unfavorable, so.
I'll second that, Pat.
Yeah, just-
Motion's been made to make an unfavorable recommendation to the zoning board of appeals, seconded by Lena, and again, that'll be based on Larry's revised letter to staff, which will indicate that the existing lot is non-conforming because
Based on
of,
that.
because of
I'll figure
its
it out.
location, but it is conforming in terms of lot
Hey,
size.
can you just also add the caveat, Larry, if you don't mind, in your letter, that, in my opinion, creating an 11,000 square foot lot in that neighborhood would certainly do the neighborhood an injustice, and it's not,
Yes, I agree.
it's not something that should be looked at lightly. I know these guys don't necessarily look at it like that, but I just, looking at the aerial, I don't think that that's something that would benefit the neighborhood. If you don't mind adding something like that to the letter. Maybe let's try appeal with some
Not in
emotion.
character, yeah.
It's certainly not within character of that neighborhood, I don't see it.
Yep.
Thank you. Projecting signs.
Discussion item, possible zoning amendment for projecting signs. We have in our packet, some wording that Larry's worked up based on our conversations at our last meeting.
I did note that there are a few on Main Street.
Yeah, I think there are still a
Existing,
couple.
yeah, existing.
Yeah, they,
They don't look that, they certainly don't look that far fetched, they actually don't stick out that much.
no, and the thing is, the town at this point has nothing in terms of control over those to a
No
certain
control
extent.
at
So I
all.
mean, if someone were to come in and change them, we at least if this goes forward based on easements and stuff like that,
Yes.
that the town, or rights that the town would have to give and stuff, we could work that through and it
I
would be an
agree.
easier process, so.
I agree.
It may help in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Anyways, you can go through what the changes were that you made and what you drew up, Larry.
Yeah, the main change was, was the second paragraph, the 3951.7. Within the CA and CB districts, projecting signs, if authorized by special permit of the planning board, would be allowed as exemptions projecting into the right-of-way. So that limits them to 9 square feet in area, minimum unobstructed vertical clearance of 10 feet above sidewalks, and it shall not project more than 4 feet into the right-of-way. And then that would coincide with the tweaked last paragraph, which was basically there previously, but it also gotten revised to 9 square feet as maximum size, the 10 feet clearance, the 4 feet protrusion from the building. So, other than that, the only other change was in the phraseology of the basic language of the article, where it says, "and by adding," then I put not just under 395, I added exemptions, because that's the formal tag for that subsection, and it made it a little easier to follow what the following language means or where it fits in the bylaw. So based on this, then you'd be able to have projecting signs by special permit from you guys, as long as they met that requirement. And they're obviously going to need licenses from the selectmen as construction ordinances.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they are such that they're in their own property, it just allows them, we don't have to worry about the 4 feet into the right-of-way section.
But otherwise, they'd still not be able to
When they
project
say
more than 4 feet anyhow.
No, and I just have one technical question on that, Larry.
Well, that's where
Um,
the- no
Knowing that it's going to,
standing
in
out.
theory, protrude into the public right-of-way, i.e. sidewalks, should it also be stipulated that they also need to somehow add a safety wire so that if it ever were to come off, it can't come to the ground?
Sign.
I think the building code requires stuff like that.
I just was curious, because that's the only other concern that I had was
Yeah.
that.
I wouldn't
don't
put it
know.
in here. I would, if I would hope that the Board of Selectmen, whenever they grant these, would grant them based on either something like that or the the building code. I'm not sure whether the building code requires it or
I
not,
don't
but
know
that's where I
either.
think it should be, is
The
in their
initial-
agreement with the town.
The
I just
initial
wanted to express
licenses
my
I've been
concern.
drafting.
I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes, but I just think that if you're gonna protrude specifically into the sidewalk, I mean, every now and again,
Yep.
you do see in Cambridge and in Boston that something fell off a building and took out someone on the sidewalk.
Right.
I prefer to, at least say that that's on my mind, and
Yeah.
if it's handled through the selectman's office, or if it's handled through the building department, I'm fine with that. I just, like I said, wanted to at least mention that.
Right, I know what you
In my
mean.
opinion, I'd like to have a
Well,
secondary.
this is a recommendation to put this through to town meeting. We can do that, and by the time it comes back to us for a public hearing, Larry can find out how it can be handled or
That's
how we
all.
handle
Yeah,
it.
and
That's
I've
a
been
good point.
drafting the language for the licenses, so we've
Right.
been looking at putting in.
Just so you understand my
insurance
concern,
and
I
other
don't wanna.
things, So
Yep.
this will,
Yeah, don't.
if
My
there isn't
pilot will be
something,
me.
if there isn't something in the building code, we'll put it in the license.
That's all, I just,
Yep,
With
gotcha.
I like
with
this
that,
other
I'll
than
take
that. Motion.
a motion to submit this to town meeting, at the next town meeting.
I'll move.
Did this send it
Pat.
to selectmen or?
Pat already did
Yeah,
it?
you
Okay.
second, Lena?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Any further discussion on the article? Hearing none, all those in favor of submitting the article for perpendicular signs to town meeting will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous at 4.
The warrant closes the 28th, so I'll get the proper forms in
It closes the 28th? Wow.
at noon.
High noon, I would assume.
I knew,
Tripartite agreement amendment,
I don't see.
the
it.
revised completion date, they're not here, so I don't know.
Where's Milford National Bank?
They ever gonna show up?
Is that what it says?
Yeah. That's why I was curious where Milford National Bank is.
Milford National.
I'm just curious where it
Have
is.
they started anything
I'm
yet?
just reading this.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing to sign, so there's no one here, so we don't have to worry about it. Larry, you should have them, as far as changing this, we need to change it to either Rockland Trust or
I
whoever
don't know
they're
what bank
using.
it is. I don't know what bank they're using.
Well, yeah, Joe Antonellis was representing the bank, and I haven't heard back from him.
Okay.
They were supposed to update all of that.
I just can't sign
see how
something
they're
that
not
we
here.
know is no longer, that's defunct.
The last one was a discussion item on the possible sale of tax title parcels. Larry had asked me if the board would like to review, take a look at these. There's a number of parcels that are owned by the town that the town is considering selling. And based on zoning and stuff that we've changed, where Larry wanted to bring to our attention some of those parcels that may be up for sale. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Larry, to go through them.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. The selectmen had met a couple times on this, and they sent out the abutters notices, a couple of the copies I put in the packet. One was to the town somewhere, and the second one was to the Conservation Commission. It's actually on Concom's agenda tomorrow night to do a similar kind of review. After those first two pages, the rest of the packet is basically a copy of what I'd sent a couple different times. Once I was notified in mid-December that this was on the radar. So I guess what kind of got lost apparently in the overall process, because it's gone on for a while, is the fact that the parcels actually are of importance to the town, not only for open space purposes, but primarily for drinking water supply protection. You've got similar copies in your packet of what's up here on the board, but here's the town line. It's Holliston, Hopkinton, Echo Lake. There's Walden Woods and the protected open space. All the green stuff is town-owned open space now, including these parcels that are town-owned, and those are the 5 parcels. And there's the old school lot. Those are the 5 parcels that are tax title, have yet to be put under Concom jurisdiction.
What road are they on?
Well, they're not. They're off of Route 85. This Route 85 here.
Oh, okay,
495's here. Volta Oil's there. Restaurant Depot's here.
Okay.
Walden Woods and Echo Lake. So they're landlocked parcels. I would think the town would want to retain them, and in fact, I'd recommend that they be put under Concom jurisdiction. It's not just so much for open space purposes, but as I mentioned earlier, the water supply protection. This water resource map, again, here are the parcels. It's kind of hard to see, but all of these different colors represent surface water protection zones here, because that all drains directly into the Charles River.
Wow.
And we draw drinking water from the Charles River.
why do they
Purple
wanna
is
sell
the
it?
actual aquifer, which is on further south of these parcels. But this is an important area primarily for drinking water supply protection. There are other things that we didn't show on these maps just because it's too cluttered, but it's in what's called the BioCore. Our comprehensive plan refers to it that way, the open space protection plan refers to it that way, because it's not just important for the drinking water protection, but for open space, for
Right.
rare endangered species as a
Yeah.
habitat for those. So it's an important area, and we should be retaining parcels in there, not selling them.
Not selling it.
Right.
So,
What's the one at 495, which looks, yeah, that one, is that next to effectively what's been known as Vietnam, the bike parcel?
yeah, the New England Mountain Bike owns this.
Right.
So there's still another parcel in between there and that parcel, Larry?
Yeah, I think that the other parcel is owned by the power company.
Power company, okay.
You
They
can
wanna
see the
sell that
power,
one?
the High Line going through here.
Really?
So what would be, just in
It's not-
asking, what would, considering the access, and what's the thought process of the Board of Selectmen in terms of selling? I know some of the others, and they match to ones, and maybe the ones down off of, they get close to East Main Street would be, looks like they're out of that zone, maybe they're more, maybe those could be sold, but it looks like the parcels that you show, I can't see, one, who would wanna buy them, and two, what advantage the town would have to sell them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. This is my 2-cent opinion. You do the quick math, it's 300,000. I guess the question is the town really need 300,000 that bad to dispose of land
Oh,
that they've had for forever, okay?
Again,
My 2-cent opinion would be, clearly someone has shown interest for whatever reasons. There's gotta be an abutter in the area that says, hey, I could use this for whatever reason I can't speak of. But to Larry's point, if they're part of the water resource area or going to have a direct impact, I don't think it behooves us to risk selling it.
No, you don't want to get rid of it.
That may benefit a third party that I don't know who that could be, and it doesn't really matter to me, but they may have abilities to like I said, to develop it because they own property around it, and they could have a value to themselves, but I don't see for the money, the 300,000, I don't see how it's worth the risk, specifically if it's in, as Larry said, some of the water, or some of the sensitive areas. That's
it is
just me.
sensitive. You can
And
tell.
that is
One
sensitive.
parcel by itself has 3 or
Yeah.
4 vernal pools.
Yeah.
So,
the-
so,
This one here.
The ones that you saw there, Larry, I think there's probably certain agreement. I'm not, the ones as you come down further, yeah, I'm not sure that those I would, well, that one I
Well,
probably
this is
still
a-
would, but.
This is a massive wetlands that runs from the highway, from 495 up into Holliston. This is the, what was it in Holliston? I can't remember the name that went with it.
really?
What's the, Reno, what's the family name in Holliston that this open space parcel was?
What was your question?
Oh,
What's the
Campusol?
family name?
Campusol?
No,
I don't know.
What was,
the family name, anyway.
doesn't
So,
matter.
but this is all
the-
protected
the
open
ones-
space. and
The
all
ones
that.
from that point up, I would tend to agree with you, Larry. I don't see any reason why I mean, I would think we would specifically say the town shouldn't sell those. The ones as you move down towards,
Well, the
yeah,
school,
those.
that's the old school, it's a vacant lot. where
What is
the old-
that?
Yeah,
The old
Bragville School.
Bragville
The
School.
Bragford School, okay,
I don't know what that was.
I know that.
I mean, I don't know
remember that. I
that
remember
one could
that.
be made available if somebody wanted that one.
Bragville School, no.
There's enough other things going
lived
on
in-
down there that,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And the others, is that the only one down in that corner, or are there a couple in that corner?
No, that's the only one on East Main Street. These are along the.
They're along 495. They were,
495.
yeah, they were the remnants
It
of
all-
when, of the
right.
state bought
Yeah.
the right of way.
I don't
It
know.
it seemed to me to make sense to put them under Conservation Commission jurisdiction and retain them. These areas over here represent Louisa Lake, the
Yep.
Consigli parcel. This was the open space that we got with Congress, Governor's Way, in that 40B, or that PRD. This was a so-called town forest, which over 100 years ago we got by tax title. These other parcels are north of the water company, we got by tax title. And we finally assembled enough that there's 200 contiguous acres that's under Concom jurisdiction. So that makes total sense to continue the process. Everything in this corridor, in fact, there's some other parcels up here that the town owns that ought to be under Concom jurisdiction as well. So to me, it doesn't make any sense to dispose of them. And I was hoping you would agree, we could send a.
I agree, but to Joe's point, I mean, I don't know where this Braggville school was.
I remember that. I remember that
Well, that's what I'm
school.
saying. I don't think you recommended that that
Do you
one be
remember
on
that
there, my
school?
recollection.
Reno.
So Larry's
you remember
always
that
saying that
school?
the ones that are up there, we should send a letter to, not the Bragg
Yeah.
School one.
Not the Bragg.
You can ask me all those
That's-
questions if I get up there.
Oh, okay.
No, again, the other upper parts, I don't find the advantage of disposing.
No.
Like I said, I visually just have no
Well-
idea where the Braggville school
So-
was.
Yeah, that was, I mean, and that one really runs the other way, so I don't see any reason
I know.
we would say anything
But
about
again, I'm
that.
assuming this is predicated because some abutter has a use for them, is what my 2-cent opinion.
Yeah, it could be, although I don't know who that abutter would be
I
through
could,
there. That-
it doesn't matter to me.
Jay,
Really?
Again, it
Yeah,
doesn't
well,
matter to me.
I mean, that bothers me in another sense, but I won't get into that right now.
So, are they looking for a recommendation from
No.
us?
No,
I mean,
this is-
they're
this is-
not,
This is
right?
us making a statement because we saw it going on, but
Yeah.
nothing has been asked to this board.
So will there be a letter sent to the selectmen or
If
to?
we vote
I
that
think
way.
if you vote that
Yeah,
way,
I
Yeah.
recommend that.
Oh, yeah.
And I would also.
I mean,
recommend
especially,
some-
and I would, I guess I would highlight the fact that considering we're still in negotiation to buy the water company, why we would then be selling land that's in the water resource area is somewhat beyond me, but,
Right.
I agree.
you know, go ahead, it's an open section at this point anyway, so.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just make a copy of that 81B?
Of what?
That 81B.
Good to see you all again. I'm like an old shoe, I just keep showing up.
Just the-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm probably gonna reinforce all the discussion that's gone on here anyway, but just bear with me. When I heard about this, it triggered three concerns I had about selling town-owned property. My first concern, as you all have said, is the preservation of much of the watershed as possible in its natural state to protect the quality and quantity of our town's water supply. Now, 4 of the 5 lots that were mentioned being proposed are for sales within the Charles River watershed, as Larry had mentioned. And so every acre where we can keep in its natural state provides 1 more acre for aquifer recharge.
Right.
We already have a stressed water supply, and add more stress to it right now is, forever, is not advisable. My second concern is that the sale of these 4 landlocked parcels and perhaps unbuildable may send a signal that other lots in that area could be proposed for sale, and that is an inappropriate signal. My third concern is probably more appropriate for the selectmen's consideration. It deals with the process of selling town-owned land. I want to take us back to the year 2000, when the selectmen formed the Town-Owned Land Use and Open Space Committee, consisting of 14 members. I served as a town planner at that time, and was a member of that committee. And Lena, I'm sure you remember.
I was the chair.
Because you were the chairwoman of
I
that
was,
committee, right?
yes.
And 2 years later, the committee submitted a report to the selectmen with 5 recommendations.
Right.
The first recommendation was, and I quote, "Any town-owned land within the watershed and resource protection district should not be sold." Another recommendation was the selectmen petitioned the town meeting to establish a town-owned land advisory committee
Right.
to provide recommendations to the town meeting members on warrant articles that relate to the use of disposition of town-owned land. The advisory committee was never established. I would still recommend the establishment of the committee. However, given the fact that disposal of land acquired by foreclosure of tax title does not require town meeting approval, I would recommend the committee's, therefore I recommend the committee's mission, if it was established, be expanded to include providing recommendations to the selectmen for the use and disposition of land acquired by foreclosure of tax title. If the town meeting acquires land, it requires a town meeting vote to dispose of that land. Foreclosure land by state statute does not require that condition. So in conclusion, then, my benefit, in my view, the benefit of retaining ownership and keeping it in its natural state far outweighs the $2,800 a year in property tax revenue that we would accrue from the sale of these 4 parcels. So, I know you're not in a position to recommend, but if you could, it would be helpful to recommend an unfavorable action on the sale of these properties.
Is there a
Answer any
way-
questions.
Is there a way we could do that, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
You use the word,
We can send a letter to the Board of Selectmen, we can craft that
Yeah.
however
Okay, all
however
right,
we wish.
yeah.
I mean, the list was sent to you, Larry, so I mean, there is official documentation from the board that they are looking, that they were at least looking from you for input into the sale of this property?
Yeah, many of the department heads had gotten a memo in mid-December in terms of whether the town had a use for them or not. So I responded with the spreadsheet that showed, or with the Excel chart that showed the ranking from a follow-up study, and part of the work that the committee Reno was talking about had done. So that's what those 3 pages in the packet
what
are,
that- yeah.
the
So
ranking.
would something to a letter, because we're somewhat on the outside to a certain extent, but somewhat of a letter that it's come to the attention of this board that the town may be looking to dispose of open space property within the town aquifer, and that the planning board at a meeting, we'll see if they vote that way, voted to send a letter to the selectmen to
Urging them.
urging them to
Retain,
to retain the properties within the
specific to the water
water resource district.
water
And I'm
resource
sure
slash
the-
wetland slash recharge.
Yeah, slash.
Again, 30-0-6, again, I don't know where this Bragville school is. To me, I'm just looking at the values that they have assessed. I personally, you know, if you need the 137,000, then be my guess, but.
0.36 acres,
But-
that's how big it is.
No, I understand, but it's like everything else. No one creates more land. And I don't see the benefit for this short time of money.
Yep.
What the benefit is for the town of Milford to dispose of it. That's just me. Now, you know, hey,
Well,
going down,
Well, and
these 4 lots, Pat, would generate about $2,800 a year in property taxes. The Bragville lot, that's a lot that's not in this
Okay.
area, so we can't
Right.
argue that. So, my experience in this is that when the auditors look at our books every year, they look at all the land we have taken under foreclosure of tax title. And that's revenue if we could get it back into the economy and start generating tax. So that's where this comes from. It's purely a financial
and Reno,
view on
I agree with what you say in principle, however, but plus, if this town was in the situation that we actually taxed the levy, and that we were in a deficiency, then I could agree with what you just said. And again, in principle, I understand exactly what you said, but that's not the case in the town of Milford. That's what I'm saying. I don't know anything about the 30-06. So again, if you want to dispose of that one because it's not, it doesn't qualify as the other ones do, I'm fine with that. But again, the other ones, I don't see the benefit of ever selling them. I think there's an inherent risk
it is.
And I
based
think,
on the area if we do sell them.
I think the Concom tomorrow night's gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, let me tell you one more concern I had, but I don't think it's a critical one. If we acquire the water company their landholdings are substantial. But we would have acquire those with a town meeting vote. Therefore, they cannot be dispositioned without a town meeting vote. So there's a degree of protection outside of this foreclosure process that's sort of not very transparent. In fact, if we didn't have this meeting tonight, I'm not so sure too many people know what's happening, except the abutters who get notice that the property's gonna be sold, you wanna make an offer. So this is a very good process that has come out in the open, and people now can be aware that this is going on, so.
Yeah, let them know that the water part of it is very important.
Obviously.
You know, I mean, really.
Agrees that a letter should be drafted and that.
Oh,
If you're looking for a
absolutely.
formal vote,
Yeah,
I
we
can
need to-
certainly make a motion, Joe.
Motion to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen indicating that, planning board.
Change of 4
yeah,
out of 5.
Yeah, the planning board recommends that the town maintain, the 4 parcels within the water resource, whatever we wanna call that, the water resource zone, and that those parcels not be sold. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Motion by Pat, seconded by Lena. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of sending the letter to the board,
Aye.
I'll sign the letter.
Thank you.
Opposed, unanimous of 4.
Thank you very much.
Larry, if you send me a
Thank
copy of the letter once you draft it up, I'll
Yeah.
sign it.
Yep, thanks.
Motion to adjourn unless there's
Motion by
anything
Pat,
else.
I don't know of anything. Anyone have any other old or new business?
No, I'm good.
Hearing none, motion by Pat to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
John, all those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous at 4.
Thank you and good
Thank you
night.
and good night. Now that we're back on.